What is up, dudes, dudettes, and all my beautiful brothers of the interwebs? Bloody Nux here, back live from the PAX East show floor in a very secret hidden room here with one of the lovely devs who is going to be letting me get hands-on with an upcoming title called StarVaders. And he's going to go ahead and introduce himself over here. Let me go ahead and hand it over to him.
Hey everyone, I'm Eddie, and I'm the lead designer for StarVaders.
So Eddie, tell everyone a little bit about StarVaders here.
Yeah, so StarVaders is a tactical roguelike deck builder. You control a mech and you're trying to defend the Earth from alien invaders. These aliens spawn at the top of the grid. It's a grid-based game. They spawn at the top of the grid and they move down each turn. And your goal is to destroy them before they reach the bottom. It's kind of like a turn-based tactics version of Space Invaders. Yeah. After each combat, you get to draft new cards, new relics, new upgrades, and discover like broken combos, synergies, try to save the world from these 3 different bosses of increasingly difficult challenge. Yeah, and all roguelike fun. Every time you play, you have different cards offered, you encounter different bosses, enemies, you have different classes you can play as. So,
Yeah, that sounds amazing. And honestly, it caught my attention here for the game because, one, I'm a very big fan of roguelites. A lot of my community has seen a lot of my gameplay in the past. Roguelites are my absolute addiction, guilty pleasure, however you want to put it, and deck builders too. So the fact that you added those together is because it reminded me of games like Slay the Spire, roguelite
Exactly.
deck builder. But when you added that tactical grid-based combat, which almost reminded me a little bit of like Mega Man Battle Network,
Yeah.
except vertical instead of sideways, and how everything was like turn-based. I'm just like, okay, I like the way this kind of works here. I was like, so let's go ahead and jump right on into the demo. And I was like, and take a little bit more about it.
sure.
Now I know here that you mentioned that you can make all sorts of crazy builds and busted combos, which is always the best thing, right? I was like, is being able to make it as strong as you can, whatever is possible, so you can always feel as powerful as you want to be.
Yes.
Now, what are some of the creative ways that you've seen so far, or that y'all have tested while showing off the game here? I was like, and y'all can't see it here because we're playing on the Steam Deck. I was like, but I'll probably put it like here
Some
or
gameplay footage.
all over my face. Y'all know.
Yeah.
But yes, I would say here. So here, just giving us the instructions, the basics here about the turn process, how it all works, going back and forth, trying to obviously destroy them before they get to the bottom 3. So I'm guessing the whole bottom 3 is our area where we can maneuver in. And as you mentioned, Space Invaders. Obviously, you have the little bases to guard you. You don't want to get them down there as best as possible.
Though I will correct you on one thing, you can actually move out of your own zone if you want to. For this class specifically, it's not that useful, but the second class is a melee class, which you could imagine would like to go up front and personal.
Okay, so here we have the different abilities. I see there's a move. So it looks like the only way to actually move here is if you have move tiles.
Exactly.
So it's about balancing, obviously, firepower and utilizing those to also utilize movement here, so you're not getting stuck. Because what's the point of having all these attack cards if you're not able to get in the right position to use them, right?
Yeah. So there's definitely a balance between attack and move cards that you have to strike while you're building your deck. And you might see them, but you'll when you're drafting cards and upgrading cards, you might get attack move cards that both move and attack at the same time, for example, or
so in some cases you'll have a card that may, for example, say move 2 spaces and then attack directly, or it's like after attack then it's like move 1 spot backwards or diagonal, something like that.
all of the above.
Oh, there you go. You can get creative with the way that you get directional, huh?
Exactly. So I think you mentioned, like, one of your questions was, what are some of the creative ways that I've seen people like build a deck? One of the decks that I thought was really funny is there are like push cards, right? Push cards can push enemies into each other, for example, to like deal damage to both of them. One of the decks I've seen, they actually focuses on pushing yourself into enemies to deal damage to them. So you're like bashing them yourself, and then basically like you deal damage to them, but you also take a damage yourself. But then there's also like self-damage synergies as well. So the mix between like pushing yourself into other enemies and then like getting benefited from that was really pretty funny to see.
You know, that's actually very creative here, is because then you turn it into something like a good old fashioned billiards, or however you want it to be. It's like,
Yeah.
how many times can I bounce myself around to do multi-hits, which is always fun. I was like, now the question is, doing something like that, when you saw that, is there any sort of damage from you hitting the enemy, doing it yourself, or is that something where it's like, if you can get creative with it, go for it?
So in our game, your sole objective is really to prevent the enemies from reaching the bottom. Sometimes the enemies will try to attack you, the mech, but being hit is not so bad at all. All that happens when you get hit is you get a junk card. And a junk card is like a dead card in your deck that will cycle back eventually. So it will slow you down, but it won't kill you. And of course, being a deck builder, there's always like cards that synergize with junk cards, for example.
Yes, like there may be cards that say, hey, have 3 junk cards in your hand, do more damage, and discard them, right?
Exactly, things like that. So you can always take these like constraints, these limitations, and make them into benefits instead. The downsides aren't always downsides. All the rules, like the rules are meant to be broken in a deck builder, right? Exactly.
Okay, and that, you know what, that's amazing. It's always fun to see ways to not necessarily punish players for, obviously, in this case, experiment. If you want to get wild and throw yourself at the enemy, you already mentioned you have a melee class, why not get creative with it? And obviously you've seen that some are just like, how can I use this to my own advantage? Instead of just bouncing the enemies, can I bounce myself?
Exactly.
So that's actually really fun that you aren't trying to limit anything, because you think that there are games where when you throw yourself into an enemy, obviously it's going to hurt you, which you don't necessarily want, right? You want to be able to let the players experiment and have their fun with it.
Yeah.
So that's really cool that you don't hold that against them. You allow a little bit more freedom and a little bit more fun with it.
In like a very similar sense, the way we designed all our bosses, we made sure that almost all types of builds are able to like challenge these bosses like head on. And for example, like there are some games where it's like you can have like things that push people, but then somehow the boss is immune to pushes. Then it's like, okay, if my entire build is based off pushes, what do I do now? It's not really that useful. We made sure every boss can be defeated by pushes, for example.
So it allows the flexibility of just like, okay, well, if you go one specific build, you're not going to punish them for playing that way. It's just like, okay, well, you did this whole thing this whole time, like we mentioned earlier, Slay the Spire. You look at one of the characters, they're known for doing poison damage. Well, now all the enemies are poison resistant, or so most of your whole deck and your cards are all based around that. Well, now you can't utilize those, and then it kind of punishes you for playing into that kind of archetype. So then you have to really like, okay, well, now I have to get neutral cards, or for those who beat the game, you're able to get cards from the other characters to kind of offset that, but sometimes that comes so late, it's hard to counteract that.
Yeah. The way I like to think of bosses is that, yes, they are challenges, they are very difficult, but I like to think of them as not something to stop they're not antagonistic to the player. They're not in a game design perspective at least, they're what lets the player really show off their true build. I want players to really get to be able to play their build and see it pop off, you know what I mean?
Absolutely, and that's always wonderful, is to be able to show that, hey, we're not stopping, we're not preventing. It's like, however you want to have fun with it, go for it.
Yeah. Of course, it's very hard to design these, but I think it pays off.
Oh, absolutely, and it's definitely shown with everything right here, just through the tutorial and like the first couple missions. I'm definitely seeing how it's all playing out and it's kind of working together, and it's a lot of fun because even a few times I made my own mistakes. I didn't feel like I was like, okay, well, I messed up. I was like, no, I was like able to still come back and counteract that, and kind of showing how you're saying, oh, you got to protect the lower areas, and even if they're there, it only takes away the I guess the specialties of letting them get to the bottom because they have to end or start their turn down there.
Exactly.
So even though they come in there, you still have a way to kind of stop it. And even if one gets through, you still have your two. So it's kind of like your life counters. Like you don't want to get them all three. I was like, if one happens, sometimes bad hands get drawn because it's always RNG. I was like, it's all about your build, but sometimes luck of the draw comes into that. So I really like the fact that you found a creative way to take away the traditional health system, be like, okay, you have so much HP, this is all you have, but instead you're like, okay, well, it's actually each mission you have, just the three bottom rows
the
that
grid
you just gotta
tactics
protect.
that
Exactly.
you gotta figure it out instead.
And it allows a lot more freedom and less punishment for players, and I like that. I was like, it's always wonderful when you're able to allow that. And I also see here a couple times you introduced the heat actions.
Exactly.
That certain cards, stronger cards, have multiple points that they count towards here, as well as the fact that along with that here is that you have basically 3 actions that you can do, and if you go more, which you can, you tend to burn your card, so you can't use it again.
Yeah.
So that,
I think in a normal, at least in Slay the Spire, you do have 3 energy as well, but it's a limit. You can't do anything after. We're softening the limit. You can overexert if you want to. It's a soft limit, but overexerting means that there might be, it'll burn the card, right? And then you might have a weaker hand later on. So there's that there's always this risk reward pull every single turn of if you want to overheat or not. Yeah.
and I like that. It allows a lot more abilities here to be like, hey, you know what? You can absolutely go a little bit more if you want. Yes, there's going to be a little bit of risk involved, but you at least have that ability.
Yeah.
And you look at a lot of games, it's like you have to offset that by building into it. There's games that obviously have the action points, but it's like, hey, you can buy upgrades, you can buy abilities or cards that say, hey, use this card, reduces your heat or gives you a refund point based on X, Y, and Z. So you're kind of allowing that without having to have that bonus. Now with that, are there potentially cards that do reduce your heat to give you that freedom and flexibility?
Of course. As with any deck builder, I think one of the coolest things is that every mechanic you see in the game, there's a way to modify it or break it in some way. So of course, you can increase your heat, decrease your heat. Some cards are better when they're overheated only. Some cards, how you burn your cards if you overheat. Mm-hmm. There are some cards that let you unburn cards, for example. So there are some cards that become stronger when there are more burned cards in your deck. So all these different types of synergies. There's one really powerful relic that makes it so whenever you burn a card, there's a chance that it doesn't even burn.
So it gives you a little bit of risk for it.
Exactly.
So it's just like, hey, if you want to take that extra turn, you may not necessarily lose the card.
Yeah.
And I saw right now here, there was a card that says, hey, moves 1 to 4 tiles. If you go into the danger zone, your next attack gets stronger. So allowing you to do more damage and have those abilities to be able to kind of work against multiple enemies. So I really like the way that all plays out. Now, for those who are at home here, when can they get their hands on the game? When do you have a demo plan? What platforms are you looking at?
Yeah, so you can actually play the game right now on Steam. We have a demo on Steam, and the demo is very comprehensive. All 3 acts are in there, and it has 3 pilots for the first class. As well, we are aiming for a release maybe sometime near the end of the year. Haven't really decided yet. It's going to be on Steam PC, Steam Deck supported, and we're looking at ports to the consoles as well. So Nintendo Switch, hopefully, Xbox, PS, like PlayStation, but like unconfirmed as of yet. But that's what we're hoping for, yeah.
Okay, cool. I was like, well, I could definitely tell you that I'm definitely looking forward to the game here. I definitely cannot wait. I was like, as I stated, roguelites are my absolute favorite, and I'm definitely gonna check out the demo, show it off here, and can't wait to get more when it gets closer to release.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
No, thank you. I was like, so guys, I do want to thank the team here for stopping by and hanging out with me and letting me come hang out in their little secret hideout. It means the world. So make sure you go and check out StarVaders currently on Steam. And where can they find you on socials? Is there any other channels that they can use?
Steam is our primary channel. We have a Discord server as well with a very active community if you want to join the conversation. And a wish list on Steam means the world for us indie devs. It really does make a difference.
It really does.
Yeah, even if you don't personally use wishlist, it like helps with the algorithms and all that. So.
Yeah, because I was like, go show the support, wishlist it, because it helps to push them to be recognized. Even if you don't get the game until a year after, I was like, still wishlisting it puts it in a wonderful way. Support the team, they're amazing. I was like, I can't wait to get into it. And guys, make sure y'all stay here following and subscribe to get all the other news live from the show floor. So thank you again, and we'll see you in the next one. Till then, peace out, and check you later, everybody.
Keep me in your heart, please don't let